The group, now called Fingal Head Coastcare, was set up to clear the bitu and repair the dunes and forest after sand mining. However, it soon became obvious that we needed to protect the land from inappropriate developments and destructive activities. In 1987, we were shocked to hear of the proposal for a hotel in the quarry, a multi-storey building that was wrapping around the cliff and may even have been restricting access through the quarry. The proposal also included a marina and a lot of the town being brought up and condominiums being built in the town. The manager of the hotel was also going to manage a lot of the surrounding Cran land from the southern end of Lagoon Road through behind the headland up to the caravan park. The community was quickly united, and there were groups in Fingal. There was the Fingal Progress Association, Friends of Fingal, run by Tony Jordan, the Aboriginal group and the Dune Care group. And these were all united under Fingal Defenders, which was an initiative of Bruce Graham, who came over from Tweed River High School, where he was the teacher librarian. In fact, we used to say it was a black, white and green opposition, and we were quite pleased that we were getting the cooperation from all the groups. Also, the Coast Walk. Lee Scarlett came to a Fingal Defenders meeting and said, "Why don't we walk to Sydney to raise awareness?" And there was a bit of a silence, and Bruce Graham said, "Well, that's a good idea, Lee. You go away and organise that." Lee did, and he organised Coast Walk, which was to raise awareness for the inappropriate developments along the New South Wales coast. It left from the headland at Fingal in late 1987 and got to Sydney for Australia Day in 1988. And along the way they collected a petition which they took to one of the state government ministers, Ian Causley, and presented that to him. Friends of Fingal organised a campaign which was very multifaceted. There was articles in magazines, there were postcards sent to people, T-shirts made, and also there was the Aboriginal tent embassy in the quarry. There was that was manned for months, and people were staying there overnight. But there was a petition, and many people went there and signed the petition.
No one anywhere thought that we could possibly win. How could this small community group get together and beat a multinational which was multinational, but a corporation plus government? And it soon became obvious, though, once all the opposition was developed, that there was a lot of corruption at all levels, like of government, local and state. And so this initiated an ICAC, the first, I think, of the ICAC cases to investigate. And they did find that local councillors plus members of parliament, the state parliament, were involved. And so it went from there. So there we were, uncovered, and you won.
We did, we won. I never thought we were going to win. I just did the next thing I was being asked to do, or thought I should do, and I became the environmental spokesperson, and I'd be asked to go and talk to ministers or something, and I had to quickly learn names of trees and things, which of course they never asked me about. But it was wonderful that finally, in the end, there wasn't a hotel, and there isn't a hotel in the quarry.
If that ocean view development had gone ahead, that would have destroyed Fingal forever. It would have become part of the Gold Coast, perhaps worse than the Gold Coast. Fingal would not be what it was and would never have survived. The whole community, as we see it, so cohesive, the Aboriginal community, everyone would have been displaced, and it would be just what do we call it, a playground for the rich.
Then in 2001, we heard that there was a plan to seal the Teaster Spit Road, with no plan of parking or any plan of management to manage all these people that were going to use this lovely sealed road to get to the end of the spit. So the community again got together, and driven by the Aboriginal Land Council, who didn't want that to happen. And we started a campaign which consisted of sort of blocking the road and talking to council and lobbying council and presenting to council. And eventually we did manage to stop that sealing of that road. So then a couple of years later, the next threat that we were confronted with was there was a plan for the Medalist Group, run by Greg Norman, to set up a golf course in the area south of the Fingal village on Aboriginal Crown land. So we started a campaign opposing that. The Aboriginal community were divided on that, and we were asked, Fingal Head Coastcare was asked to just try and establish the environmental significance of the area.
So Kay and Sue Pearce and I went down there and we did a species list of the woodland species that grow in that area.
So that was presented as part of the case. The next thing we heard was that they were planning to build a huge marina at Chindra. So Katie got on the bandwagon again and ran a huge campaign to stop that marina, because it was really going to impact on Chindra and the tourist traffic and everything else. So it was stopped. In fact, after that, Katie ran for council and ran with the biggest majority ever. Once we'd stopped the destruction of that area by stopping the golf course, the next thing we found that the old ancient Pleistocene sand dunes were being used for joyriding, for hooning, four-wheel drives, bikes. It had become quite very popular, and they were being destroyed. And this area is particularly significant, not only because of the old ancient dunes, but also the heath, isn't it, Kate?
It's a lovely remnant of the dry heath that is in that area. It's beautiful in spring when all the flowers are out and the birds and honey eaters are there.
So we thought we had to do something about it, and so we talked to the Land Council about it, and we all decided that something should be done. So Coastcare applied for a grant to build a fence along Fingal Road, and with the Tweedshire Council's help, we virtually got the money. The Tweedshire Council built the fence on the road reserve, so it didn't encroach on anything. People didn't think that it would stop four-wheel drives, did they?
I didn't think it would, but the fence was never cut, and everybody was prepared to park on Fingal Road and walk through to the beach. Yeah.
So it was successful. We didn't think it was, but it is a high-profile area. A lot of cars going past, a lot of people aware of what was going on. But over the next few years we came up with another problem. We had stopped the sealing of Letitia Spit Road, but we found that more and more people were going down there. They were joyriding all over Aboriginal land, through the wetlands, on the beaches, illegal camping, illegal fires. A campfire, in fact, set light to the whole of the area down there, and there was a large area burnt out. So there was a lot of destruction going on, and we had no idea what to do about it. So the community got together again, and it was through the Community Association particularly. We consulted with Land Council, and we decided that we would, over the Easter campaign, we would raise awareness of what was going on and suggest that it was not acceptable. So everyone was consulted, the police were informed, Tweedshire Council was informed, and we decided to set up a road blockade and stop the cars and give them pamphlets and explain how significant the area was and why they shouldn't be driving all over it and destroying it. What were we thinking? Seriously. But again, we organised the campaign on that weekend, and we manned the station down there. We blocked Letitia Road, and we manned it for several days over Easter, and did exactly that. We stopped cars. Many of the people understood, many of them didn't. But the long and the short of it was that everyone was aware the campaign had started, there was a lot of media cover, and the campaign started from there. So after this, well, while this media campaign was going on, the Land Council first of all fenced Fingal Letitia Spit Road. That didn't work because people just cut the fences. So then they managed to get some very large concrete bollards and lay them along the side of the road, so that that stopped everyone fairly effectively. So we were heaving a sigh of relief and thought, we've got that under control. And the next thing, someone says to us, do you realise a wakeboarding company is advertising wakeboarding in Sponsors Lagoon on Letitia Spit? So of course we went into mode and started doing something about that. So the first thing that we did, the company was confronted. There was a whole lot again of media coverage opposing this, because it is the Sponsors Lagoon is part of a really significant wetland, isn't it, Kate?
There's lots of mangroves there, and the ones that grow in the silt waters are there as well, so there's more than on the sides of the river where there's a higher flow. It's an important wetland.
And it's a protected wetland, and to think this company just had the hide to go in, and they built a ramp for wakeboarding, and away they went. Anyway, that was soon stopped. The company wasn't fined and should have been fined because there was already a lot of damage done. Fingal Head Coastcare's really battled for Fingal Peninsula, but we've also been involved in battles, environmental battles in other areas. So we heard that an area south of Kingscliff, which they call Lot 490, was up for development. They were going to give this Crown land, publicly owned Crown land, to a developer.
Which is similar to the Ocean Blue situation.
Yeah.
That was a reserve for public recreation, and people were very angry about that going out of public hands.
Exactly the same situation. And so this company was going to build an eco-village. The only green space in it was the walkways between the cabins, or they were really upmarket cabins. So again, this time the Tweed community got together to battle this. And the way that we were particularly involved was two ways. We were mainly on the environmental side, weren't we, Kate? So
the species list was developed for the area.
Yeah, both species for the vegetation and birds, to sort of show that this was a really significant area. It was a really good habitat, despite the fact that it was really weedy. It was really good habitat, and it also was a corridor from ocean to the area that is now going under King's Forest. So it was
along the creek.
Yeah, and all right along the creek. So a really significant area to be saved. So, and then Fingal Head Coastcare developed that list. Then we ran a couple of workshops for the community, really well attended by a lot in the Tweed, to work on that and to show that we could turn this fairly weedy area into a really good habitat. And we were working on that. We were involved in a lot of negotiation with the New South Wales government because it was Crown land. And finally, there was an Aboriginal land claim put in, and it was handed over to the Aboriginal community. And then back to Fingal at about the same time. There's always been a few weddings on the headland and nothing very much wrong with that. And then all of a sudden we got a huge surge in numbers. The weddings were really big. There were a lot of people that did all sorts of things that were completely inappropriate, like painting huts on the lighthouse and on the rocks, and I love you, Isabel, and everything else that went on with it. And then the commercial wedding planners decided this was a good venue, so they not only had the wedding ceremony, but they had the whole reception there. And then that involved all sorts of problems because there's no toilets, is there? So do we need to say more? So we started a campaign with Tweed Shire Council and got their support in some sort of controls. So in the end we all decided the best to do was to stop weddings on the headland altogether, and to manage the weddings on the beaches. So you could still get married in Fingal, but it had to be the beaches, but you could go up and have your photos taken for on the headland. But it just solved the problem of the huge amount of people on the headland all the time.
And the rubbish.
Yes, and the rubbish that was left behind, because there was the confetti, wasn't there? And there was the toilet paper, and there was the food wrappings, and there was everything. So we thought we'd sorted out the weddings, and the next thing, there was a very bad bushfire in New South Wales, and as a knee-jerk reaction to this, the New South Wales government introduced a new legislation on the removal of trees in private property, basically. So as a measure to protect the houses, they were allowing most vegetation to be removed from private property. There was a big backlash, particularly in Sydney, in the wooded areas, and so right across the state, people realised that this was being taken advantage of, and people were just removing trees, particularly for views. So there was a campaign run across the state, and Fingal Head Coastcare got involved because during that time, a number of rainforest remnants were removed from private property. Under the guise of that they had not been allowed before, and they took the opportunity to remove those. It involved our local member and us campaigning with him, and he was very supportive of it. So while all this was happening, the community was involved in yet another argument. So they decided to put a flight path over the Fingal village, and of course the noise was dreadful. So the community got together and started a campaign to try and argue that shouldn't happen. Again, Fingal Head Coastcare were called in on the environmental side, and we did some studies and research on the migratory birds that don't roost but do feed down on the Teacher Spears.
And rest on the sands. So they're birds that live on the sands. And they were, because they've got flying these long migratory flight paths, they do need to rest before and after their long journeys.
Yeah. And all these birds are protected by international agreements, these migratory birds, because they're under a huge threat. Fingal Head Coastcare has been active in many different ways of protecting the environment. So we've been involved in local demonstrations, blockades, lobbying, all levels of government and anyone of any importance at all, and providing submissions to all level of governments on all sorts of things ecological. And as well as that, we ended up being asked to present in court 3 times. There was the very first one, Kate will tell you about.
So there were 2 vandals here, and the then Department of Land and Water Conservation said they could take them to court, but they would need witnesses from Fingal, and everybody was sort of not very keen on that. But in the end, there were 7 people from Fingal Head Coastcare who were prepared to go to court and be witnesses for that court case. Yeah.
And the outcome was?
The vandals were fined, costs and court costs. Yeah.
So that was sort of a big achievement. Then we were asked to go to attend a land and environment court, speaking about the protection of the importance of protecting vegetation on private property, the vegetation that provided habitat and corridors and that sorts of things. So that we assisted the Tweed-Shire councils in those cases with the Land and Environment Court.
These are some of the main actions that we've been involved with over the years, 40 years, but there are others. Okay.
And there's been those ongoing ones, that have been there all the time. So there's been the battle with illegal camping, illegal fires, beach fires, people destroying the bush because they can, because they want some firewood, because they want to clear an area and have a party. So there's been all those, and of course the never-ending dogs off lead episode. So how many letters have we written, and how much correspondence have we had, and how often have we presented to council about this? But one of the first things I remember about Fingal Head Coastcare was going to a meeting, and there was a letter a response to one of Lee Scarlett's letter on this topic. And tell us about it, Kate.
And the letter from Tweed Council said, "No, Mr. Scarlett, we are not going to rename Dreamtime Beach Dog Turd Beach."
And we are not going to rename the Tweed the Turd Coast.
Of course, Fingal Head Coastcare spends the vast majority of the time working hard, restoring the natural vegetation, improving habitat and providing or being involved in programs that protect and improve the environment, as well as providing environmental education programs to increase the understanding and knowledge of groups ranging from preschoolers to whole communities. But far too often, and as Kate said, it became obvious very early, we have been forced to become activists and stand up and oppose the destruction of the environment, not only on the Fingal Peninsula, but environments further afield.